Here is my review of Backpack Hero in just 3 minutes. Backpack Hero is one of those games that reprograms your brain to keep you constantly thinking about it. Like a song stuck in your head, I couldn't ignore just how much of a technical earworm it became. I sometimes found myself thinking about ways to pack a bag and how to synergise items just before bed, and unlike the cliched sheep I've always been told to count, this actually helped me drift off. An excellent little combo of Tetris and Slay the Spire, the two games that natally clings from, are just as guilty of this. To put it simply, Backpack Hero tasks you, a tiny little mouse in an endlessly growing dungeon, to fight your way to resources, gear, and most importantly, loot. At the very start of the game, you find a backpack that can hold a lot of items, and this only grows as you do, giving you more blocks to place down after every level up. The items in your backpack all have an effect of some kind, with many costing energy or mana to activate. You then have to wisely use your resources each turn to take down enemies and avoid getting hit too much. You are left constantly planning not only what will let you win the next battle, but that boss in 10. Luckily, you can also get a little bit more storage as you go. Levels are earned by fighting enemies and through events in the dungeon. Dungeons are laid out on a small map and tend to open up a little more as you take on fights. Events are well choreographed, meaning you often know almost exactly what you're fighting as you go in. This means when the game clicks, it really clicks. After your first run, you make your way home to a field with scattered debris and just a handful of tiny mouse lives. This is where the second main aspect of Backpack Hero starts to kick in. In your huge backpack, you can bring resources, which can then be sold to buy new houses or research items for subsequent runs. Where most buildings are used to research new things, some will give you resources over time, usually just a few with each floor you travel. This means even a failed run would net you precious resources that benefit you long term. Backpack Hero is a roguelite through and through, and for the most part it nails the balance between keeping you constantly growing and curious about what could lie ahead. At about the midpoint, the game does start to slow a little thanks to some minimal changes and runs being a little easy, but challenge runs give a much needed change. Talking to villagers and progressing storylines give you unique runs that task you with using certain items, not hitting anyone, or carrying a tiny stuffed bear of your own town's mayor, a self-obsessed politician who wants a little too much of the credit. As you might be able to guess, it is some very charming writing, even if a bare-bones story hides that feeling initially. In pursuit of this, the pixely art style and catchy music work well to imbibe a certain laid-back atmosphere that is perhaps a little too relaxing for its own good. An example of this, I tend to be pretty locked on in games like this. In Slay the Spire, I find myself thinking multiple moves ahead and, mostly, getting it right. But my biggest challenge in Backpack Hero was the aforementioned Mayor run. In this, you have to use one energy on the stuffed bear once every combat or you die instantly. This isn't really that much of an ask. I was so relaxed and laid back playing the game that I died multiple times due to this simple mistake. I had my backpack set up exactly how I liked and would machine gun out battles, only to be taken down by that tiny little bear in my pocket. Despite losing to such a silly mistake, I kept hitting retry and attempting just one more time. Backpack Hero's gameplay loop is only made more engrossing by extra characters, all with their own rules and challenge runs. The game gets bigger and bigger throughout your time with it, but never bloats. The items are numerous with multiple hundred, but are still as fun to mess around with 10 hours later. There are parts of the game that are a little slower than the very start, but Backpack Hero rewards you for your patience by only drilling further and further into your brain. Backpack Hero is an enthralling title that initially intrigued me due to its unique premise and cute art, but now tens of hours later, it's stuck its claws much deeper into me than I ever thought it would, and I'm unsure if it's finished with me yet. Thank you for listening to this. I intended to get this out weeks ago, but some personal drama and life got in the way, so thank you for watching. If you liked it, please subscribe, it really helps out. My current goal is 250, which we're really close to actually, so if I get to that number that would be awesome. Thank you so much for watching.